Okay, I think we're gonna begin. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 21st annual James B. Hunter Human Rights Awards. My name is Roland Watkins, and I am the chairman of the Arlington Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission receives, investigates, and conciliates complaints free of charge from those who believe that they have been victims of unlawful discrimination. It is stated in the Arlington County Code that Arlington County is a community richly diverse. It is in the public interest of the county to ensure that each citizen is treated fairly, provided equal protection of the law, and equal opportunity to participate in the benefits, rights, and privileges of community life. Discrimination deprives the citizenry of the bare essentials of life and is detrimental to the public welfare, safety, and health of the community. We're pleased that you are here with us tonight to honor those who help make Arlington such a rich and diverse community. We will, during the course of the night, have members of the county board to come. And when they do come in, I will introduce them. I just want to acknowledge that we do have the chairman of the Arlington County Board here, Christian Dorsey, and he will be giving opening remarks pretty soon. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that we do have the county manager, Mark Schwartz. And Mark is the one who's holding his hand. The James B. Hunter Award was established 21 years ago to honor individuals, community groups, nonprofit organizations, and business establishments that promote cultural rights and equal rights for all residents. The past recipients of the award are a testament to the history and diversity of Arlington. The first recipients of this award in 1999 was the African American fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And also, the Arlington Gay and Lesbian Alliance was honored at that time. Past groups honored include Leadership Arlington, Arlington Street People's Assistant Network, Doorways for Women and Families, the Literacy Council of Northern Virginia, the Buckingham Youth Brigade, the Arlington Food Assistance Center, the Animal Welfare League, the Knock Civic Association, and Building Bridges. Businesses such as Cafe Asia, Moore's Barber and Beauty Shop, Busboys and Poets of Shirlington, Freddie's Beach Bar, and Cafe Cezanne were recognized for the work in the community. Religious institutions such as Clarington Presbyterian Church, Our Lady Church of Peace Catholic Church, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, and St. George's Episcopal Christ Church have also been honored. Finally, an incredible group of individuals, such as Dr. Emma Violent Sanchez, Albert Eisenberg, Dr. Margaret Wilson, Charles P. Monroe, Rhonda Buckner, Bonnie Wyatt, Reverend Madeline Jervis, Dr. Thomas Connolly, Pauline Ellison, John Kip Laramie, Margaret Patterson, Joan Rither, Eric Schaefer, Jay Fassett, and Marty Swan have been recognized for their contributions to the community. In the interest of time, I've mentioned only a few of the many recipients. Now, who is this former member of Arlington County Board for whom this award is named and who exemplifies the work of these past and present recipients? And to answer that question, I'm going to call on Human Rights Commissioner Paul Lewis. Paul?
Thank you, Roland. I'm a history major, so this is fun for me to have a chance to say a few words about James B. Hunter. I love connecting moments. Mr. Hunter was born in Arlington. He went off to Princeton and then the Marine Corps, but he's always involved in the community. He stayed here his whole life and eventually became a county board member in 1990. He was our chairman twice. More importantly, he was a leader on the issues that we care about here tonight. And talking to members of his family, colleagues, and reading about him, one theme that came out throughout was that he cared about people. And I think if you're involved in human rights, you care about people and human dignity. So he was involved in working for the disabled. He worked for low and moderate income housing, and he championed the human rights law that prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation here in Arlington. But I mentioned connections. He served on the board of one of our honorees tonight, the League of Women Voters. He was on their board. Another connection is our county circuit clerk, Paul Ferguson, served on the board with him. And Paul was going to be here tonight, but could not make it. But he said that, Mr. Ferguson said that when James Hunter was on the county board, he worked with Walter Tejada and hoped one day that Mr. Tejada would be on the county board. And as we know tonight, he eventually was, and he's an honoree tonight. So the arc of history is towards justice. And if you care about human rights, you care about justice. And if you care about human rights, you care about family. And I think that's the closest connection. So tonight, we're honored to have 5 members of James B. Hunter's family here tonight. Grandchildren Lauren Hunter, Karen Hunter, and Damian Zaman, his daughter Tongpan Vitelio. And we're honored here to have you here tonight and the opportunity to honor James B. Hunter. Finally, we have another daughter, Jessica Zaman, who's graciously agreed to share a few words about her father. So without further ado, I'll let Jessica tell us about her dad.
Thank you very much, Paul, and good evening, everyone. I want to say it's an absolute honor to be here today. My father would have been absolutely thrilled to have this Human Rights Award in his name. Thanks for having us here. Thanks for reaching out. So it's been 21 years since he passed away. He was taken far too young. He was only 58 years old, but he had lived a fairly complete life, and it was full of activism and advocacy. A recurring theme when I think of my dad and when I talk to others is that he was really a humanitarian at heart. He strongly believed that everyone deserved a fair shake, and I think unknowingly he was an inspiration to many, perhaps some in this room. He was certainly an example to many of us who knew him and loved him, both in his everyday living and also in his public living. He came from a proud tradition of service. My dad's dad, my grandfather, was a minister at Rock Spring Church here in Arlington, and he was very active in the civil rights movement, especially during the desegregation of the public schools. His mother advocated for early childhood education, and she eventually went on to do many things, including starting a preschool at Rock Spring Church, and that was before there were preschools around. So my dad looked out for the underrepresented. He tried to find ways to fix things through policy change where he could influence policy, and then through more informal means when he couldn't. His desire was simply fair treatment for everyone. Examples of this include his advocacy for low-income housing. I think he was very proud of that. his promotion of diversity on the county board, his work for many other practical solutions to improving life for all Arlingtonians. I think those of you who knew him knew that he loved this place very, very much, and he wanted it to be a great place for everyone. After he was elected to the county board, and Paul alluded to this, he fought for many practical things that would give everyone the rights they deserved. For example, when he learned that the LGBTI community county employees were not able to share their health benefits with their partners, he worked to figure out a way to change that. And this was really long before, that was, I think, the early 90s. That was long before it was an issue that people talked about much in public discourse. But it didn't matter to him. It was the right thing to do. He wanted to change that, and he knew it would make a huge difference in people's lives. I know personally how much this affected one prominent member of Arlington's LGBTI community. This person who had come to comfort me after my dad had died literally ended up crying on my shoulders because he was so heartbroken. Anyway, my dad knew that those health benefits would bring concrete change to many people, and I believe they did. And I think they also paved the way for further change down the road. When my dad, I think you know, or some of you know that he died of cancer, so he had some time to prepare for leaving us. And one day I remember talking to him, and he was, I don't know, kind of thinking about his life and reflecting, and he wondered if he would have more impact, on this world after he departed the physical world. Of course, I would rather that he had not left us so soon. 58 was way too soon. He didn't have a chance to meet my kids. He didn't have a chance to do so many things. But it's just an absolutely beautiful thing that we're honoring him 21 years after his death with this award tonight. My mom could not be here tonight. She lives on the West Coast, but she noted that we are still seeing his influence in what me and my siblings have chosen to do with our lives and what our kids are deciding to do with theirs. He was a great, great example, and I'm so proud of what he represented. And I'm also very proud of those of you who are being honored tonight for the important work that you do to make Arlington a better place. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of you.
I have the honor of introducing the chairman of the Arlington County Board, Christian Dorsey.
Thank you, Roland. I didn't realize I was on the agenda this evening. But a feature of this job that I occupy, that will not deter me from saying a few words tonight. It's actually very easy because this is really one of the highlights on the board's calendar and really from what we offer in Arlington County. The commemoration of the James B. Hunter Awards is something that I've known about long before I ever viewed myself as possibly being in this position. And it was one of those things that was inspiring about our county, that we took the time on an annual basis to recognize those people who would usually go unrecognized for their contributions for promoting the diversity of our community and the equal rights of all Arlingtonians. I'd first like to say I'm so proud of our Human Rights Commission for taking up the mantle of Jim Hunter and doing this on an annual basis. And Jessica, in addition to the tremendous value that your father had in terms of loving this community and the values that he instilled in the family, I hope you recognize that his spirit still very much lives not only within the annual dedication of these awards, but in the policies that me and my colleagues on the board seek to implement on a constant basis. And I'd like to first congratulate the 3 individuals and the 3 organizations who are going to be honored here tonight. I'm intimately familiar with your work, so proud of what you do. And what I think I am most proud of is that we get a chance to have you be honored when you are going through the work that you are pursuing. All too often in our country, monumental contributions to human rights, equality, and diversity are only recognized by the broader public after those individuals have left us. But here in Arlington, we make it a point on an annual basis to make those observations in real time while you're still here to understand the value that you bring to our community, and then we can gather a community of people who care to celebrate your commitment and the results that you bring for those who are most in need of recognition, protection, and quite frankly, celebration. So this is a wonderful event. I am glad that you all have gathered to celebrate the awardees, and I'm privileged to have had a couple of moments to say a few welcoming remarks. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Dorsey. This is the best part of the program because we get to honor individuals and groups who have done and still are doing an incredible amount of work. As I've said, the list of people that we have honored in the past has been unbelievable, and the time that people have put into doing these things, really the award that they get, they deserve much more. So having said that, we would like to present the first award, and for that I'm calling on our Commissioner member, LaToya Asia.
Good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. Our first awardee, who is a recipient of the individual award, he was already mentioned earlier, and it's just really nice to hear and feel all these connections, because when I reached out to Mr. Tejada to let him know of his selection, he referenced James as Jim and said he was a really good friend. So I think that that kind of just continues in the spirit of what's already been discussed by the commission and by Mr. Hunter's daughter. Mr. Tejada, Walter Tejada, was served on Virginia Arlington County Board from 2003 to 2015, in which he was chairman in 2008 and 2013, and served as vice chair in 2007, 2012, and 2015. Born in El Salvador, Mr. Tejada moved to the United States at the age of 13. He studied government and communication at George Mason University and worked as an investigator, a business consultant, and as an aide to Congressman Jim Moran prior to his election to the Arlington County Board. He currently consults on issues related to leadership development, civic engagement, and immigrant advocacy, and is a frequent speaker and panelist on these issues, as well as a political commentator in Spanish legal media. A community advocate, Mr. Tejada has distinguished himself as a leader committed to enhancing diversity of Arlington and the region's community voice. He has been instrumental in convening community stakeholders to address a wide range of issues such as affordable housing, civil engagement and volunteerism, community and economic development, education and employment, parks and recreation, tenant outreach and empowerment efforts, youth programming, health and fitness, and nonprofit assistance. Mr. Tejada was instrumental in the establishment of various initiatives and programs. These included leading the way to the establishment of the Office of the Public Defender, the Arlington Nonprofit Assistance Center, and the Community Volunteer Network, first known as the Community Role Models, that provided leadership development and service opportunities for young adults. Virginia Governor Mark Warner appointed Mr. Tejada to serve as the first chairman of the Virginia Latino Advisory Commission. And in 2006, Mr. Tejada was appointed by Governor Tim Kaine to the Governor's Urban Policy Task Force. Mr. Tejada currently serves on the board of the Metro Washington Airports Authority, and he was appointed to that position by Governor Terry McAuliffe in 2016. In September 2018, he was tapped to join the National Latino Commission on 2020 census. So the list goes on, obviously, with all of these, but I just wanted to point out, obviously in the spirit of this award to which he is a recipient, just a few of the many, many awards that he has received, and obviously his very long tenure serving Arlington County. So some of these awards include the Spirit of Community Award from the Arlington Community Foundation, Outstanding Young Arlingtonian Award from the Arlington Jaycees, Phyllis Campbell Newsome Award, Public Policy Leadership Award. He was recognized in the past by the Ethiopian Community Development Council with the Distinguished Service Award. He has received Immigrant Advocate of the Year Award by the Capital Area Immigrant Rights Coalition for continuous support of immigrant rights. He's received Livable Communities Leadership Award, Legacy Award of Greater Washington Hispanic Commerce, and the list goes on. There are so many, and this was a very small piece of his bio. So I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Tejada for his award and ask him to come receive it at this time and give some remarks.
Good evening. Notice I am lowering the podium here. I'm a little familiar with this room. I want to start first by thanking the Commission for their continuing work and echo Chairman Dorsey's comment on how important it is, the work that the Human Rights Commission does here in Arlington. I've always been called an Arlington cheerleader. Recently, I was at a meeting, and I said, people were saying, well, we're done with this meeting, we got to move on. So no, we need to hear from other stakeholders. I believe in civic participation because I've been indoctrinated into the world of civic engagement and politics by the greatest community in the world, Arlington County. So, that may be a little bit of exaggeration, so on, but you know what? At the end of the day, we are a great community. We are very successful in many ways, but that doesn't mean we don't have challenges. We have many, many challenges. We're actually be the first to say we're not perfect. And in order for us to continue to be that caring community in which each person supposedly is important, then we have to continue to work really hard and count on, and I'm not sure it's my favorite expression, but to have the watchdog that we need, and that is the Arlington Human Rights Commission, to keep an eye on things that are going on, because it's as great as we think we might be, no, it's not necessarily well. We all know about the challenges of affordable housing and proposals at times that could benefits or to services to low-income residents and so on. So that's part of our continuous fight all the time. I have to say that I am particularly honored and privileged to receive this award for many reasons. But it is very meaningful when an award is given to you that has the name of someone who was your mentor. And to me, Jim Hunter, that's right, Jim, was my mentor. And I may respectfully request his family pass on a woman's regards to Patty, his lovely wife, who is in the West Coast, as it was mentioned, and whom I've also met every so often. And Jim encouraged me to participate. And he was one of those persons that he wouldn't give up. I remember the first time when he approached me and said, it'd be really important for you to join a commission. And I said, this is around, I think it was probably around 1994, 95, something like that. And I just started to get involved with an organization called LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, Council for 609. And I see my good friend Lenny Gonzalez and other folks who were in that group, Bob Garcia, who have always been involved in all those. And then he said, I said, no, I don't want to get involved. I'm okay, I don't want to participate. And he said, well, actually, I think there might be a need for you to participate in our community. He would call me at home. And he said, you don't have a ride, I'm coming to pick you up. What time can you be ready? I'll be right there. And a number of times, he actually gave me a ride in his Honda Accord. And let me just say that he will not break any speeding, he will never get a speeding ticket. Let me just put it that way, okay? He was just a wonderful man, a true caring person. One time he calls me, he goes, Walter, there is a meeting, an important meeting, you got to come and speak. You got to speak in there. And I go, well, what meeting is it? He said, the United States U.S. Civil Rights Commission is having a meeting right in the county board meeting room, and you need to come and speak. And I said, well, what am I going to talk about? What should I talk about? I said, you got to come up with something, but we got to. So since I was starting to get involved with LULAC, I looked at okay, what do we have here and that we can talk about? And sure enough, and I rushed over here, and right in this very room, I was sat in the back, I was so nervous, and I came up and spoke, and I babbled away at something regarding human rights and the importance for folks not to forget about the importance of people who are struggling, who are, English might not be their first language, and so on. And, and then at the end, after I left all nervous. Jim called me and he thanked me for participating and for coming and speaking. That was a really nice touch. And it was those kinds of things he would do to encourage my participation. And he finally said, look, there's got to be something, there's got to be a commission in which you can serve. And I said, I heard you like to play soccer. Is that right? And I go, now you're talking about something. Now that's serious stuff. And he goes, why don't you join the sports commission? And I said, okay. And I got involved with the sports commission. I did join the sports commission and became one of those persons that began the movement for what was called at the time the North Track, and that later became known now as Long Bridge Park. It was a long, hard-fought war. But you never know what happens when you encourage someone to participate, because I got involved in that, and the rest, as we say, is history in that regard. So we lived through challenges, and I think I had 2 hours for this speech, is that right? Give me a warning when I need to wrap up so that we end in all the same page. But I just want to say that we are blessed to live in Arlington County. And as I mentioned, we're not perfect. We all are the first to admit we got challenges. But we live in a wonderful community, and all is not necessarily well in our nation. There are some ugly things happening. As we know, there's a lot of hate crimes, attacks against the immigrant community, constantly. And whatever political persuasion you might have, it's really important that we all use our own filters and get our own opinions on what is actually truth. I personally do not believe in alternative facts. I only believe in the facts and the real. And at times people want to create a false narrative of the contributions of the hard work of the immigrant community. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think, in the Outlook section of the Washington Post, the Outlook section, the front page the front page story on that one was how Latinos saved the U.S. cities. And it covered over the last 75 to 100 years. I would encourage you to read that. For those who denigrate the Latino community and immigrants overall, you're denigrating the community that came and worked hard and are paying taxes, paying Social Security, and subsidizing your retirement by doing that. So, as you know, some of us are not shy in expressing our opinion. I'll end by saying it is important that the work continues to be done. And I would just end by saying, Mr. Schwartz, our county manager, some time ago when I was on the board, there was a proposal to cut televising or recording the hearings for the Human Rights Commission for the James Hunter Award. I say, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. And instead, I said, we need to talk about how we strengthen that. Because, in a humble way, I got to tell you, we have to document our community heroes. In a humble way, I'm receiving an award now, and so I want to step out of that for a moment and say that everyone else who's been listed here is one of our community heroes. Whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it's someone, whatever fight they're in, they are our heroes, and it needs to be recorded somewhere so that people on the line know that our great quality of life was paved by people like James Hunter, like people that work really hard to make it happen, to make sure that we stay a caring, inclusive community in which person is important. I very much appreciate this award. Thank you for the work you continue to do. Adelante, muchas gracias por este reconocimiento. Para mí es un gran honor recibirlo y con gusto, con mi amigo Jim Hunter, tener el nombre de ese reconocimiento para mí es un gran honor. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For our next award, we have a very special person to give that award. And that award will be given to the recipient by Delegate Patrick Hope.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to honor Joan Trumpauer Mulholland. For those of you that don't know Joan, Joan is someone who's been referred to as just an ordinary hero. But Joan wasn't just an ordinary hero. I believe she was extraordinary, and I think you will too. You see, it all started in 1961, 1960, when Joan was involved in the first sit-ins across Arlington. Some on Lee Highway, some on Glebe Road, and some in Shirlington. Within a couple of weeks of that movement, all the lunch counters in Arlington were desegregated. But she didn't stop there. No, she didn't stop there. She took the movement to Glen Echo Park and sought to desegregate the merry-go-round and the swimming pools. She said, there's a back of the bus and there's a back of a line, but there's no back of a carousel. Then her attention turned to the Freedom Rides. It was during one of these rides where she was arrested in Jackson, Mississippi. If you've ever seen that, her famous mugshot, you should see it. She was arrested for breach of the peace, and she was sent to Parchman Prison, referred to as the most dreaded prison in America. And she was placed on death row for more than 2 months. After her release, she enrolled in Tougaloo College in Mississippi, and she became the first white person to ever be admitted. It was as a student that she became part of the most famous and violent sit-ins in the entire civil rights movement. Now, there's a very famous picture about this whole sit-in. On March 28, 1963, Joan sought to integrate a whites-only lunch counter with 3 African Americans at the Woolworths in Jackson, Mississippi. She joined Perlina Lewis, Memphis Norman, and Ann Moody for the right to sit at the lunch counter. After several violent outbreaks, they were joined by John Salter, a white man. They were yelled at, they were called names, they had salt, pepper, and sugar poured on their heads. The crowds were hostile, and Joan did not think she was going to make it, but she was determined. This went on for more than 3 hours before the head of Woolworth's national office called and closed this whole store down. She would have other close calls with death, in particular one incident in the summer of 1964 that included a run-in with the Ku Klux Klan during what was called Freedom Summer. After 4 years in the movement, Joan moved back here to Arlington, where she worked in various jobs for the federal government, the Smithsonian Institute, the Departments of Justice, and Commerce, before pursuing a 30-year career as a school assistant at Barcroft Elementary School in Arlington. She raised 5 boys as a single mom. Now, while today she doesn't like to make a big fuss, and if you know Joan, that's how she is, she knows she did was because it was the right thing to do. Joan saw something that was wrong, and she was determined to do something about it. In her own words, she said, it's not just one person who does it all. It's lots of people that you've never heard of doing what's right, going beyond themselves, making hard choices that causes change. I saw something that was wrong, and I wanted to make it right. Joan put her own life on the line so that others in Arlington and beyond will not suffer. She's been recognized and won numerous awards and recognitions: the 2015 National Civil Rights Museum Freedom Award, the 2019 International Civil Rights Museum Trailblazer Award, the 2018 I Am a Man Award, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Annual Award of Honor, and the Anti-Defamation League's Annual Heroes Against Hate Award. And I'm so happy that she's being honored here tonight as the James B. Hunter Award. I give you Joan Trumpauer Mulholland.
I just don't like to stand behind things. I feel like it's a barrier between me and you. But hopefully, this will all go out. Now, I've been honored 3 times over tonight with this award, by being introduced by Patrick Hope, and by being included in the honors with Walter Tejada. Tejada is one of my heroes, and when he said he wasn't going to run for the county board again, I said, well, your bumper sticker's staying on my car. And, sir, it is still there. Okay. I think I got, bona fides as an Arlingtonian. When they brought me home from the hospital where I was born in Washington, D.C., back then we didn't have hospitals in Arlington. We had barns and chicken coops. But they brought me home to Buckingham Apartments. And I like to say I haven't gone far in life, just 0.8 of a mile south on George Mason Drive and 1 block west. Now, I've roamed and rambled, a bit in between, but I think I'm an Arlingtonian with the best of them. Maybe I even got seniority rights on that one. But my son Loki, named for the Norse god of mischief, and he has lived up to it. He was born in Arlington, and he's the one who went to Barcroft School. I worked at Patrick Henry. They weren't going to hire me at the same school where I had 5 boys. Well, he also learned a bit about filmmaking over at the Career Center. He makes documentaries, and his latest you could watch on YouTube or Amazon. It's about voting rights. Women, we've got voting folks here, yeah. It's called After Selma. That's that Selma with the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where the voting rights marchers were beaten so badly that President Lyndon Johnson, before a joint session of Congress, went on national TV, back when that was big, and he said we must have a Voting Rights Act, and we shall overcome. He repeated it, we shall overcome. That was the anthem of the student civil rights movement that I was part of. It was a magical moment. And that song went we got the Voting Rights Act, and the song went worldwide. It was sung at the Berlin Wall. It was sung in Korea. It was sung with the Australian Aborigines and in the anti-apartheid demonstration in South Africa. Now, my generation, we took care of legal segregation. We saw things in terms of black and white, black folks and white folks, but we had black and white TV back then. Our vision was sort of limited. Now we have color television, and we can see so many different shades of discrimination, gender identification, poverty, food deserts, native language, a lot more than just skin tone, cultural diversity. Now, we need to work on that cultural diversity thing. Y'all had sweet tea, which represents the South, even on this cold night. But you didn't have no coffee. And you're honoring the Ethiopian Community Center. I will tell you what I like to say. Christians will tell you that Jesus turned the water into wine, but then the Spirit moved to Ethiopia and turned the water into coffee. And the black parents, don't tell your kids that coffee will turn them black. I am living proof that it ain't true. And I probably drink about, 8 or 10 cups a day if I can, but with chicory in it. That Southern style coffee from New Orleans? Well, y'all got to pick your issue, whichever one calls you. You got to work together with others who agree with that's a big issue, but you got to work nonviolently. If nonviolence was enough for Gandhi to use to get India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka out of the British, colonial empire is good enough for your issue. You got to work together. You got to keep on keeping on, as the saying goes. Don't get weary, and you will overcome. Thank you.
Our next award will be presented by Helen Connolly.
Good evening, everyone. The only thing I'm sorry about is that I have to follow Joan. Congratulations, Joan. Talking about voter rights and voter issues, I can't think of another time in history where every person's vote mattered as much as it does right now, right? As we round the end of 2019, we're looking down the barrel of the 2020 election cycle. So it's for that reason I am beyond honored to be able to present the award tonight to the Arlington League of Women Voters. For nearly 80 years in our county, Arlington League of Women Voters has been devoted to ensuring rights to, that all of our Arlingtonians have access to voter registration rights. For example, just this past summer in July, the League facilitated an event where Arlingtonians with disabilities had access to voter registration rights. I was looking at their docket of events, and it looks like just about every week in the fall, the League put on some sort of forum or some sort of event where you provide access from the constituents to your candidates, right? So that people can come out and understand what the candidates' issues are and what their positions are on those very important matters confronting our community. We can't forget that in September, right, the League also brought its voter registration process to our Arlingtonian high schools. So well done in getting those early voters in, those young ones in. But the thing about the League is it's not just focused on voter registration issues or voter education issues. It's also devoted to avoiding racial bias in gerrymandering and redistricting issues. And in 2019 in particular, you guys articulated an initiative where you're going to try to focus on addressing and educating your constituents on issues with access to public housing. And in so doing, in September, right, the Arlington League partnered with another James B. Hunter awardee, Challenging Racism, right, as well as Virginia Humanities. And you guys put on what I'm told was a really engaging, really well-attended forum where you looked at the Federal Housing Administration's policy in the 50s and 60s of denying loans to Black homeowners. So well done in putting that together. And what that shows is your willingness to partner with other like-minded organizations within our county. So as a group, and as Mr. Tejada said, we have our community heroes in the room tonight, but I would ask everybody in the room to join me in honoring the League in two ways. Number one, if there is anybody in this room who, for whatever reason, is eligible to vote but is not registered to vote, please register to vote, okay? And secondly, please join me in giving a hearty congratulations to the League, who will be accepted by Joan Port, the president.
Thank you, and thank you for putting us after Joan. We appreciate that very, very much. But it is an honor to receive this award on behalf of the women and men of the League of Women Voters of Arlington. I would like to ask you, in the spirit of the season, though, to look beyond me and to look at the spirits of the 280-plus people who make up the current League of Women Voters, because this belongs to every single one of them. And some of them are sitting there taking pictures. To the members of our SIPS and Civility Committee, who put on a program where we raised almost $1,000 and a great deal of consciousness for the Dreamers and the Dream Project. To the Housing Committee that you already alluded to, who worked with Challenging Racism for that full-day program. To the people who go into the county jails to register people eligible to vote and make sure that their absentee ballots are counted. To the members of the Voter Access and the Voter Integrity Committees who are working to restore the rights of people who are deprived of the right to vote and who are working on legislation to make sure that the government can no longer deprive people of votes in the future. To the people who go into the Arlington Street People's Assistance Network and do voter registration and information, those who go to the Arlington Food Assistance Center to do the same, and to those who go to the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing Sites. All of these people work tirelessly. To our voter services crew, they go into the high schools twice a year, and they go to all the high schools, not just those who are ones who have good programs for excellent children in civics and government. We go everywhere. We'll go anywhere. We have bags. We have voter registration. You want us, you call us, we'll be there. we just go. To our redistricting committee, who is fighting to end partisan and racially biased gerrymandering, and to our Census Committee, who is working on the hard-to-reach people with the Full Count Committee. I have just skimmed the surface of the incredible work that these people do, and it is extremely, extremely an honor for me to be able to accept on their behalf, and we thank you very much.
Our next award will be presented by member Carol Lieber.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. We really have some wonderful honorees tonight, and it's my honor to introduce this next group. Jessica, I want to share with you, I knew your father not very long, not very well. He was a wonderful person. I have to say that when I told Dr. Tafata that I had nominated his group for this award, he said James Hunter was my mentor. We heard that already. So he has impacted so many lives. We have benefited so much in Arlington from the leadership that your father showed. So thank you so much for being here and helping us honor these people who are carrying out his legacy. The Ethiopian Community Development Council was established in Arlington in 1983 as a nonprofit community-based organization to respond to the needs of a growing Ethiopian community. Quickly became a multi-service provider with national and international reach. Since opening in the 1980s, primarily through its South Arlington headquarters in my neighborhood of Arlington Heights, go Columbia Pike, ECDC has serviced refugees and immigrants from diverse backgrounds while maintaining a focus on African newcomers. ECDC brings a unique combination of experience as a direct service provider, a national voluntary agency, and as an advocate committed to empowering newcomers to become self-sufficient and active participants in their new communities. Since its inception, ECDC has served over 135,000 newcomers. ECDC plays a unique dual role, combining expertise gained as a local community-based organization, CBO, with experience as a national leader. In the 80s, ECDC concentrated on bridging the social service gaps extant through among mainstream agencies. During the 90s, ECDC expanded organizationally and programmatically. Since 1991, ECDC has been one of 9 national agencies authorized by the Department of of State to resettle refugees in the United States. To date, its affiliate network has resettled 57,634 refugees in 19 states and 23 cities across the country. Today, ECDC's resettlement affiliate network continues to welcome and serve newcomers. ECDC is unique in combining experience gained working locally as a direct service provider with that of working with community-based organizations and mainstream agencies regionally and nationally on issues affecting African immigrants. ECDC continuously expands and adapts its programs to meet the changing needs of its clients. Since 1992, for example, the ECDC Enterprise Development Group has been providing entrepreneurs with educational programs focused on starting a new or expanding an existing small business. To date, it has assisted over 2,400 people and dispersed loans totaling $33,100,000. Its tax-free programs has benefited over 8,000 clients. The ECDC African Community Center, DC Metro, provides immigration, employment, housing assistance, translation, information and healthcare services and referrals, in addition to domestic violence, education, and legal assistance. The ACC Mambo Youth Life Skills Program provides immigrant children with anti-tobacco education and self-esteem training. In Maryland, the ACC provides resettlement and direct services to newcomer refugees. For the last 36 years, ECDC has been empowering immigrants and refugees from around the world to reestablish their lives as productive, self-sufficient members of their new communities. Programs such as the Immigrants First Thanksgiving Dinner, held at their South Arlington location, helps to introduce refugees to the larger Arlington community and fosters understanding and education. At a time where anti-immigrant sentiment seems to be at an all-time high, ECDC continues to advocate tirelessly for human rights and to ensure dignity and respect for refugees who have suffered so much. ECDC embodies the concept of everyone is welcome here and serves as a model not only for Arlington, but also for the United States in fostering and furthering human rights. It's my honor to invite Dr. Sahaye Tefera to the front of the room, along with his group, to please receive this award. Dr. Tefera would like his guests to join him at the front of the room, please.
Thank you. Come on. Thank you. I am really honored that this award has been given to ECDC. ECDC is, as you heard, a grassroots organization that was born here in Arlington, grew and matured in Arlington. It is the Arlington community that had nurtured us to be where we are, and we are very, very grateful. James Hunter was a special friend. He wanted us to be involved in everyday activities in the county. I remember when I first met Mr. Hunter in the early 90s, he sponsored an Ethiopian refugee that was in the Soviet Union but fled to Europe. And through his church, he sponsored that refugee, and that's how we first met. From there on, Jim, as I used to call him, would come every Sunday and take me to the church in North Arlington. He introduced me to a variety of civic organizations here. Finally, he took me to the Kiwanis and made me a member of the Kiwanis Club. If he doesn't see me 1 month, the next day he would call and say, what happened? Well, I was busy. Did you have a ride? I said, it's not a ride. He would say, I would come and give you a ride. He was really instrumental in the growth of ECDC. It was during his time that ECDC was introduced to the county and where we received our first funders. Jim would come, uninvited, unannounced to ECDC, and he would say, how are you guys doing? Is there anything that I personally, my church or the county can do? One day, we were loading books to send to Ethiopia. And there was Jim. He just showed up at the ECDC office while we were loading a container. It was winter time. And he came and gave us a hand. We didn't invite him. We didn't tell him. He just showed up. That was James Hunter. So as a board member, he sought Arlington's diverse community and to understand, appreciate the values that they bring to the community. Unlike, the era where we find ourselves around the country, where immigrants have been seen, pictured in a very negative way, I hope the Jim Hunters of the past will prevail and make this community as welcoming as it is, and that Arlington serves as a model to the rest of the country, an inclusive, a welcoming community. We are proud to be part of this community for 36 years as an organization, and me personally, for almost 45 years, I have been residing in Arlington. That shows, why I chose to continue living here and my family. The community that you see here are part of my staff. So when I accept this on behalf of the CDC, I'm really accepting it on behalf of everybody. It is a collective effort of the community as ECDC, and we will continue doing so. I want to recognize my colleague, Aline Wright, at the back. She joined ECDC as a volunteer, and then later on joined our staff. She has been instrumental in and part of our growth. We thank her, and I want really to officially recognize her. Whatever I received tonight here, it is on behalf of all the staff, the volunteers of ECDC, and I thank you very much.
Our next award will be presented by Susie Lee.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing our next James B. Hunter awardee, who is a recipient of the award in the new educational group category. Black Parents of Arlington seeks to organize, galvanize, and empower Black parents and families of Black children for the purpose of improving the lives and education of Black children in Arlington, Virginia. And I think you'll hear that they are in drumbeat with all the other awardees tonight. So I first came to learn more about Black Parents of Arlington when I saw their work featured in Arl Now and the Washington Post, and many of you may have seen the articles that featured the work that they put together. The group had compiled what is publicly available data on disparities between Black and white students in Arlington public schools in test scores, gifted and talented identification of students, and discipline rates. And disparities are quite striking. Black Parents of Arlington, in their comments and in the articles where they were featured, really expounded, and I think all of us have spoken about tonight, and most of us would agree that Arlington is a wonderful, great place to live. It's such an honor to be part of an event like tonight, and all of us have chosen to live here for a very specific purpose. It's a welcoming community. We're highly ranked in a number of areas, including education, employment, and health. At the same time, the Arlington County Human Rights Commission has also been learning that when we examine the data and you drill down further, there are striking disparities. So Arlington County is a county also of great progress. It's also a county of striking disparities. And it depends on where you live, your race, and ethnicity. For example, there's a 10-year difference in life expectancy depending on which neighborhood you live in. Some of you might have seen that data. And I bring this up now, and it's relevant to the group we're about to honor, because of how important it is for us to be informed by the data we have publicly available to us and also available further to make Arlington even a better place to live. The data will help us understand the disparities, but I think it's important to know that we have to understand the impact of deep-rooted historical systemic inequities, which I know the group will speak more about, that are causing these disparities. And so we're not chalking it up to individuals and why one group is inferior to the other. That's clearly not what the issue is. There are deep-rooted systemic inequities. And Black Parents of Arlington has really brought this conversation to the forefront, and that's why we're applauding them tonight. They are doing the work to understand the systemic inequities causing the disparities. They're also proposing solutions, so they're presenting the data, making data really the focus, and also proposing solutions, which I know they'll be talking further about. And so I think the Arlington County Human Rights Commission felt very strongly that this group was deserving of a James B. Hunter Award. And we honor the bravery of Black Parents of Arlington for speaking, for doing their work and speaking truth to power and being that voice when not a lot of people will be that voice. And I'm honored to, on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, uplift and honor them, honor the work that they're doing. And I'm very proud to present the James B. Hunter Award to Black Parents of Arlington and welcome them to come accept the award now.
Hi, everyone. How are you tonight? My name is Whitney Kernodle. I'm the Vice President of Black Parents of Arlington. I also want to introduce, we have two of our other three co-founders here. We have Adora Williams, who is our president. She has two students at HB Woodlawn. Zakia Worthy has a graduate of WNL, current WNL student, and also a 7th grader at TJ. Sharice Kearns, who could not be here tonight, has a student at Wakefield, and I have a 9th grader at Wakefield in the immersion program and a 7th grader at HB. I also want to actually thank the Hunter family, and Jessica in particular. I tried to read a little bit about Mr. Hunter, but the stories that you gave were really special, and particularly, my father was a humanitarian and a civil rights activist in Philadelphia. He also died untimely at the age of 56. The anniversary was just last week, and yesterday was his 72nd birthday. So it's particularly meaningful to me to be able to accept, on behalf of the Black Parents of Arlington, this award from someone who is obviously very deeply motivated to be a humanitarian, but also a great father and a really good man. So thank you for that. So, Black Parents of Arlington was initially created in 2017 as a social group designed as a safe space for Black parents. We quickly realized the need for us to move in the direction of providing significant advocacy for our children. We seek to create a community that understands and addresses the systemic racism and xenophobia that has perpetuated throughout Virginia and the United States. History has proven that when Blacks in America fight for human rights, those efforts go a long way in helping all marginalized groups to achieve equity of rights as well. This country continues to live with a hypocrisy, which begs the question, how can the United States seek to lead the free world while refusing to confront the injustices of racism in every American city and town? We live here in Arlington, praised time and time again for its school system, commended in a multitude of ways as one of the best small cities in America. But while Arlington, its schools, its criminal justice system, its housing options may be excellent for well-off, non-disabled whites, it is, based upon its own data, less so for everyone else. Tonight, we make a plea to the Arlington community to take notice of the ongoing discrimination, segregation, and racial violence that persists in America, and yes, here in Arlington, 400 years after the first Africans arrived in bondage to Virginia shores. We have to come up with mechanisms of awakening morally, spiritually, and politically, ways that allow for significant movement on closing the same achievement and opportunity gaps that Arlington and APS has attempted to close for almost 20 years. It's time to start doing things differently. And how do you approach dismantling racism in a meaningful way? Absolutely, this requires equity. Equity of inclusion, equity of access, equity of resources. But what does that mean? It requires the acknowledgement that this country was born out of deliberate and strategic white supremacy that was designed to disempower people of color and create inequitable systems. We cannot talk about achievement or opportunity gaps without admitting this as a community and working to disrupt these racist systems. We need to be open and honest about white fragility, why the very concept of fragility is so difficult for so many progressive white people to understand, and why being nice to people of color is not the same as strategic action to work against white privilege. We need to push back. We need to push back at the concept of white exceptionality. White people are not more exceptional just based on the fact that they are white. So we need to be honest about why 46% of white students are deemed gifted in Arlington by the time they reach middle school. And we need to tell ourselves the truth about why white students fail to be upheld to the same standards as our children when it comes to discipline consequences. So what are our demands of Arlington for our children? We can start with changes in APS. Mandatory implicit bias training for teachers, more classroom teachers of color, and addressing discipline disparities. We need to have our children around educators that aren't afraid to teach true history and have the cultural competency to create safe learning environments at our schools. Black Americans survived the horrors of slave dungeons, the Middle Passage, slavery, and Jim Crow. The fact that our children are now sitting in these classrooms side by side with their white counterparts is a testament to the resilience and brilliance of our people and our children. We can no longer let our schools and criminal justice systems co-opt the excellence of Black people and other people of color. It's time for us to be honest about true history. When we open up access to opportunity for Black children, we also pave the way for socioeconomically challenged children to thrive. When we create an environment of cultural competency for African American students and acknowledge how teachers' implicit biases plays a large role in children's well-being, we establish an enhanced path for Latin American, Asian, and African children and all other English as secondary language learners. When we eradicate disparities in discipline between Black and white students, our work also provides more equitable outcomes for our Latinx students, our Muslim students, and our disabled students as well. When we dismantle structural racism in our public and private institutions, we also disrupt the concepts of homophobia, xenophobia, sexism, and ableism, creating safe spaces not just for Black children, but for everyone. When Black people stand up for human rights here in America, we effectuate change for marginalized people around the world. And so we, the Black Parents of Arlington, proudly accept this award on behalf of our own children, all of the Black children in Arlington, and every marginalized children who deserves the access and the opportunity to live out their basic human rights. Thank you so very much.
And to present our final award, I'm going to call upon Kylie Tibbetts.
I'll raise this up a little bit. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Kylie Tibbetts. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am very honored to introduce the next recipient of the award, but I want to say congratulations to all the awardees tonight. Just a little bit of history. Paul has been a leader in our activities with the commission for this subcommittee for the Human Rights Award. And we had probably 15 submissions for candidates. It was a very, very tough opportunity for us to choose the 6 that we have tonight. So I just wanted to congratulate everyone who was actually submitted on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much for your interest in what we do. I also want to plug the County Detention Center for offering the food tonight. It was wonderful, and thank you for the County Human Rights Office for providing coordination and all the things you do in the back end that a lot of us didn't see, so thank you so much. And especially thank you for the communications team upstairs. They're live streaming this, is also recorded on YouTube, so you can send this to your family after this meeting. So thank you again. I'm delighted to present the next award to Sean Bender Prouty. So let me just stop for just a second. Ask a show of hands, how many people, when they were in high school, what did they think about? What did you guys think about? Homework, right? We thought about things like preparing for finals. It's almost the end of the year. Maybe thought about the snow day tomorrow. Well, some youth actually think about a lot bigger things. And one of the things like giving back to their community or to their nation, such as volunteering as being a page for the Virginia Senate, being a youth ambassador for the Human Rights Campaign, and becoming an editor of a LGBTQ magazine. It's amazing to think that anybody would think that, and they're only in high school, or have done that before high school. Well, Sean was one of those persons. Maybe some interesting facts that you didn't know about Sean if you hadn't read up about him. Sean is a sophomore in high school. Sean, when I met Sean, or I was introduced to Sean, was at the Arlington County LGBTQ Pride Month here at the county, where he spoke right here about his magazine and his advocacy during the Pride Proclamation signing ceremony. He spoke to hundreds of people, a lot of people. This room was standing room only. It was crowded, very crowded, and he did a great job talking about what he's been doing. This is a print magazine that's written by LGBTQ youth. It's all in print. It's awesome that they have an opportunity to reflect about themselves and others can read about what their journey is like. Sean said that they felt that there wasn't enough representation for LGBTQ youth, which we say rainbow youth. We think that there isn't enough of that in the media today, and there's a lot of good things to be said, and we see a lot of dark things in the media today or online. Teenagers have expressions just like adults, and they need to be heard. And Sean's one of those people that have opportunity to do so and has that strength in him to do so. Sean sat for 2 years on the Youth Council for Gender Spectrum. It's an organization working to create inclusive environments for all youth. In 2018, as an 8th grader, Sean was the first openly transgender page in the Virginia Senate. That's amazing. Sean spoke in 2018 as well at the panel for the 2018 Human Rights Campaign Time to Thrive Youth Conference. Hundreds of people attended that event. And there they spoke about, on a panel of 4 or 5 people, I believe, and a moderator, about identity and support for non-binary people. Sean was selected last year to be this year's Human Rights Campaign Youth Ambassador. Come on, right here in Arlington, right here in this room. That's amazing. Sean is an advocate for mental health care awareness for LGBTQ+ youth and young adults who struggle with their mental health and are afraid to reach out. I don't know anybody else that does that, especially as a sophomore. Sean is actively working to make the mental health system more inclusive. That is amazing and very honorable. Sean influentially represents the LGBTQ youth community by promoting well-being for all children and is an important voice to teens and young adults. And Sean helps to improve the lives and hopes to improve the lives of LGBTQ youth at home, school, and beyond, not just here in Arlington County. Sean is commended for becoming an advocate for change, both in schools and the mental health care systems, working to spread the message that we all deserve, love and acceptance. And that's why I'm very pleased to present Sean the Human Rights Award. But just before I do, I just want to quote what Martin Luther King stated. In a quote, he said, "The ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And ultimately, Sean is doing that and changing the norms and not just sitting back and doing something. And I trust that all of you look up to Sean as someone who has made a difference in our community and across the country. So Sean, if you could please, I'd like to present your award.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and thank you to everyone for coming here tonight. I would like to start off by expressing my sincere appreciation for this award from the Arlington County Office of Human Rights. To receive the James B. Hunter Award, to join the list of recipients, people who really made a difference in this community, it is truly an honor and a privilege, and a little overwhelming. And it is an affirmation, a recognition of the efforts to promote LGBTQ equality in Arlington. Your support encourages the community to keep going, to keep fighting. And it is also an opportunity to speak about the fight for youth LGBTQ rights. I would like to share my story with you. When I was just 11 years old, I came out as transgender. I remember feeling proud when I showed up to my 5th grade promotion in a little suit and tie. There were looks and comments, but I kept my head up and marched on into middle school. Transitioning into middle school is nerve-wracking for everyone, but it is especially tough when you are going through another transition simultaneously. I left Arlington Public Schools, where I'd been for 6 years, for a chance at a fresh start. I chose a private school in Herndon. I didn't know anyone, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. They only knew me as Sean, not the girl I had previously presented as. At first, I wasn't openly transgender, and I enjoyed the opportunity to be unquestionably affirmed in my identity. When I did come out in the 7th grade, I was the first openly LGBTQ student at my school. And again, there were comments, but I did not let them stop me. In fact, I was spurred on. At the age of 12, I joined the Gender Spectrum Youth Council. I was young and inexperienced, but Gender Spectrum trusted me. They gave me a platform to share my message of acceptance and affirmation. The Youth Council helped me find my voice. The following year, frustrated at the lack of resources available, I decided to start a magazine for LGBTQ teenagers. The market for LGBTQ young adult books has been growing, but too many are written by those without the lived experiences. I wanted LGBTQ teens to have a platform to share their stories with their peers. And in the magazine, teens are not just dispensing advice. The opportunity to share your experiences and struggles through art, poetry, and storytelling is invaluable. Most of all, I wanted to normalize the inclusion of LGBTQ voices in these media. So thank you to everyone who believed in my vision, my family, my magazine artists and writers and subscribers and advertisers. Thank you for allowing my dream to become reality. This February, not far from here in Washington, D.C., I will be attending my last Time to Thrive conference as a youth ambassador. My first was in 2018. When the Human Rights Campaign appointed me a youth ambassador, they gave me the chance to advocate on a larger scale, to spread my message of acceptance and affirmation to more people. I have spoken on panels and led discussions about gender and sexuality. It has truly been an amazing 2 years. I returned to Arlington Public Schools for high school. I'm currently in the 10th grade at Washington Liberty High School. The gender identity non-discrimination policy was first implemented during this school year, but I have been warmly welcomed since I started attending. Learning in a welcoming environment makes all the difference for LGBTQ youth like me, ensuring our success now and in the future. A welcoming environment is about more than just the prohibition of school-sanctioned discrimination. It's about seeing safe space stickers on classroom doors or knowing your teacher is the GSA advisor. It's about knowing teachers don't just tolerate your identity, but wholeheartedly support you. That feeling of being truly accepted, of not feeling pressured to defend my identity, that's how I know I made the right choice to come back to APS. The last few years have been a whirlwind. When I came out, I thought that was the end of my journey. I could be my authentic self. Then I realized how far we have to go. I don't mean to impress upon you tonight that our work here is done. As you've heard from me and everyone else here tonight, we still have much to do. But we have come so far, and I am confident that we will continue to improve our world. And by coming here tonight, you have signaled your support for our fight. So I'm grateful to all of you and to everyone who has encouraged me in my journey. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Every commission in Arlington has a county board member who works as the liaison to that commission. I would just like to add that Walter Tejada, for years, was the county board liaison to the Human Rights Commission. This year, our liaison is Katie Crystal. And board member Katie Crystal has kindly agreed to give us some remarks. So I'm going to call on Katie at this particular time.
Thank you. Will you join me in one more round of applause for all of tonight's winners? My goodness, what company we are in. As perhaps has already been remarked upon tonight, Tuesday was actually International Human Rights Day, which is an opportunity to reflect on the universality of the idea and the value of human rights. That across history and time, across geography and culture, people everywhere have resonated with the notion that we each deserve dignity, opportunity, and respect, sheerly by virtue of being human. What a task, then, to apply such a weighty, international, universal principle to the daily life of one community, of one county, to our day-to-day interactions in commerce, in employment, in education or housing. I mean, honestly, I feel overwhelmed with responsibility when I have to apply the principles of a sector plan we adopted in 2015. And here we are thinking about what it means in Arlington County to try and translate this eternal vision of what it means to be endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And so for this reason, we truly celebrate the winners of tonight's James B. Hunter Awards who exemplify these timeless values here in our daily lives. Through their practice, they create dignity and opportunity for others. And I also want to take the moment to celebrate and spotlight the work of our Human Rights Commission, which not only shines this beautiful light on the work of others, but they themselves endeavor and labor year-round to try and translate these principles of human rights into the laws, policies, and daily interactions of Arlington County. Please join me in a round of applause for our Human Rights Commission and our Human Rights Office. So thank you again to the Commission, to the Human Rights Office, and especially to tonight's honorees for reminding us that human rights is not just a concept in our founding documents, nor an idea that resides at the United Nations or in a street protest in a city halfway across the world, but rather a set of principles that should be real and should be living every day in Arlington County. Thank you.
Congratulations to the recipients, and thank you for all of your work. I want to encourage Arlingtonians to attend meetings of the Arlington County Human Rights Commission. You're welcome to sit in on the meeting as members of the public. The meetings are held every second Thursday, and they're held here in the government building. Also, please consider becoming a member of the commission. You merely have to go to www.arlingtonva.us, click on commissions to pretty much apply to that. Thank you to the members of the Arlington County Human Commission for all of your work this year, and thank you for your work on the James B. Hunter Award. I want the members of the Arlington Human Rights Commission to stand at this particular time so that everyone can see who they are. Okay. Of course, we can't get our work accomplished without a staff, and Gertrude is the executive director, and I would like to have her stand at this time and all of the members of her staff. And finally, a special thank you to Tony Sanders, who has served as a member of the commission for many years and has decided to move on. Tony, you will be missed, and by the way, happy birthday. Finally, on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, I would like to wish everyone happy holidays and to say good night. Oh, and we would like to get a picture of all the members of the commission, and the awardees as well, and their families.